Oh, yeah, do I have a motion and a second, is that an all yes?
Yes.
Okay, the next is we received a letter from the Military Order of the Purple Heart Southwestern West Virginia Chapter 733 requesting a $1,500 donation. It looks like they're planning to bring the wounded warriors from Iraq and Afghanistan to ride the Hatfield-McCoy Trail. There's other activities going to happen that day, and they will be presenting plaques to the families of the fallen West Virginia State Troopers that were killed in Clay County, and a certificate to wounded deputy sheriff during the Military Order of the Purple Heart State Convention, which is in Charleston on May 18th. And so they're requesting $1,500 donation for that.
I'll second that.
Is that an all yes?
Yes.
The last, on this part, Wanda Clay, the custodian, she says that the floors need to be stripped out in the courthouse, and she wants that approved for her and 2 other workers to work on a Saturday. And it may mean more than one Saturday, she said.
Let me, on that, if I could ask, can we go ahead and table that, till I talk with her a little bit more about that, would that be all right for the other 2 commissioners? So, table, is there a second?
Second.
All yes?
In unfinished business or possible action, the Lincoln County High School football team came last meeting requesting $4,400 for weight equipment, and we were going to review as to where we could pull that from. This is one account that has that much, and then there's another that Cheryl said we typically would pull for school that has that amount. Okay, well, that's the bottom.
Without the recommendation. Comes out bottom, without that.
Did you see his work?
Yeah.
What's the commission?
I move that we grant $4,400 for weight.
Where's that?
I'll second.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Anything we can do to help that program, we need to do.
And as before, I think this, these things don't, I guess they do wear out. It takes a long time, and hopefully they wear them out. But I do think this, this reflects, our kids that participate in these sports reflect on all of us, because we have to support them and they support us. So I think this is a good thing. Anything along the line of physical activity, we can get our youth involved in, we need to do it. Okay.
The next one is Kathy Smith and Wayne Pruitt with Big Oakwood Community Center. We called again this week, going on here,
We'll just go ahead and move on to the next one.
Okay. And now the next one's Rick McDowell and Ryan Jefferson for an update.
I thought Ryan was here when I saw him. Gosh,
Sir.
Why don't you go ahead and then I'll piggyback on this part.
Okay, so phase 5, still working hard, trying to get everything approved. I want to try to get my specifications done and finished, which means the grant part. Well, they're already finished and submitted, but I want to have them approved, I'm hoping by the end of this month. The next thing, the biggest barrier that I'm dealing with right now is the DEP wants us to hire an extra person for an on-site field hand. Now, basically what I've already been doing is I've been doing that job of being the on-site field hand while these instructions are going in and, trying to watch and make sure all the levels are being followed, all the rules are being followed, things like that. The unfortunate part is, of course, if you got 2 contractors out working at the same time, you can't obviously be in 2 places at once. And if you're dealing with office work, which, my job requires a certain amount of office work as well, I can't be there the whole time or 24/7. So the DEP wants us to have somebody there 24/7. So right now I'm in the midst of trying to, one, find somebody that would be willing to work even just as a part-time or temporary position until the construction phase ends. You know, their qualifications, things like that. I've got a base idea of how many hours they've been working, and at one point now, this is before you became president of the commission, I had talked to Charles and he had suggested $12 an hour was the base rate of pay, and then it would still be the same principle. The DEP would pay you, the commission would pay their salary, but then the DEP would reimburse you for the money, so the commission wouldn't be out anything. It's still all grant funded. And you know, there was also talk at some point about maybe considering somebody from the PSD, but I think, Rick and I kind of decided with the water project and all the things that they're doing that it may just make sense to go with somebody different, not try to get all of them involved in what we're doing. So, you know, I've also been calling local technical schools, like I've been trying through this Ben Franklin schools in Dunbar, you know, in the hopes that maybe somebody would be graduating from a technical school or career center, you know, with a plumbing background or, you know, maybe a construction background, and made a couple of contacts there, and still, you know, haven't heard anything real solid, but the idea is we'd like to hire maybe somebody like that, you know, and that would even help me that I don't have somebody trying to tell me what to do, and I could train them, you know, things like that. So what I need from you guys is maybe just your concerns and what your thoughts are on hiring someone and like how that process would start. Now, the unfortunate part of this, of course, means that the longer this gets drawn out, the longer it takes for me to be able to get Phase 5 up and running. So I'm trying to get this done as soon as possible. And, you know, I was thinking that if I can come back with more concrete details, maybe you guys would consider just making a motion next meeting to go ahead and say, yes, you're willing to let me hire someone. So, you know, I just needed to get maybe from your all's perspectives what, you know, what needs to happen, or, you know, what you need to feel comfortable about that. And unfortunately, we had even hoped that, you know, we could maybe talk the DEP down a little bit as to not doing that, but it looks like they're not going to budge on that. So that's my biggest barrier right now.
We're talking about in the construction phase, you using these people. Are we addressing the maintenance thing at all as far as what the PSD's involvement might be or anything like that? Or we not really?
Well, the community has this wastewater management association which does the maintenance after the first 2 years. First 2 years the installer has to do. So we've got that. I mean, one of our thoughts is maybe long-term. I don't know what long-term means, but somewhere in the future, it would be great to get the Lincoln Public Service District involved, but we're not we don't know exactly how that thing would happen.
Well, I think as long as you're addressing the maintenance issues after that, you know, as long as if your association has someone or
The association has someone, and of course, we end up, for better or for worse, sort of being maintenance kinds of people too. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're opening lids and looking inside and doing tests, I mean, in a way, that's sort of preventative maintenance that we've always done, just to make sure things work. That's right. That sounds like
I like that. That's pretty good.
anything else.
Do you think, does that make sense?
Yes,
Well,
Come
you
back
know,
with
so
some-
whatever you guys think. I mean, like I said, I've got a base idea for hours as well as money so far. And the other thing is, I want to try to get at least a little bit of training in them before we just throw them out there, because I know how it felt when I was out there. Where I don't know if it's going
You gonna submit all tonight?
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
then we put it on the agenda and look at it. Sounds like
Do you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay, I've got one thing. Thanks, let me give the signed one. I want the real signature in here. Some of you may remember discussions and dealing with Bill Clark, W.J. Clark, Inc. That is a firm in this area. They are the sole representatives of Anua. That's one of the companies that makes some of these things. We've had some trouble in our relationship with Mr. Clark. Last year we dealt with the leaking tanks. Another problem during this phase was the fact that when we started putting in these new adapter rings, when Wiseman went to Clark to get the parts, Clark gave Wiseman incorrect instructions in the wrong kind of materials. These were put in, they didn't work right. Clark went back to fix them. They didn't follow the manufacturer's guidelines for fixing them. Last year, W.J. Clark agreed that they were going to step up to the plate, that they were going to give better advice, that they were going to try to help us do a better job, and we don't feel like that's happening. And so I would recommend that the commission endorse this motion that we would require that anybody who's awarded a bid for Phase 5 not be allowed to make purchases from W.J. Clark. When it comes to ANUA, which are the peat modules, Clark's the only representative in the area who sells them, but ANUA would be willing to sell directly to the project. So everything would still be available. It would just mean that we would, I would hope that we would avoid this bad advice and these problems that we've had. It's not a normal kind of thing to do, but
When it's one thing to say you want to make it right, and it's another thing to do it.
That's exactly right.
And I don't think they did.
They didn't. And,
Well, that's
well, that's, so that would be, that's the motion that we think.
and I don't have any problem doing this, because I think it's correct. I think we ought to go ahead and make the motion with the understanding we're going to have the prosecutor review it to make sure we wouldn't incur any increased liability in doing this. So,
Think about that, that's a good idea. That's why you're the commission president, that's great.
I just ask lawyers about everything, so. But, so I'll entertain a motion, we go ahead with this with the understanding that we'll make sure that the prosecutor feels that it's not increase our liability if it's on Mr. Clark.
I move.
Is there a second? It's all yes. So, we need to get this to Clark, to J. Clark.